Well, I think our biggest opportunity, even using the lean tools, is at Waxdale. The teams work very well together, and they have been working together for many years. The problem is when you go to ask them about a document, it doesn't exist. They're basically doing everything by memory, and if you look at and you break down the changeovers, the setups, the production runs, they all vary by shift. It's not necessarily the people, but the processes that are lacking. So in using the lean tools for standard work, in doing time studies, we're able to basically give them a standard for what they should be producing against, as well as in the case of doing the changeover, a time on the machine. So we're starting to work on getting PMs put in place for some equipment when it breaks down. For primarily, it's been basically people handling it from firefighter standpoint. You just kind of wait for the day on something to break down. There's really no planning. And what this has done is it exposed some opportunities for us to focus on.
I find it difficult being the lean leader because you're the person that challenges everything. You have to get people to think differently about the way they do things. And so you're constantly asking why are we doing things this way? And sometimes people take a little offense to that. But in the long run, they start to think, oh yeah, why are we doing things that way? And eventually you get them to see a better way to do things without telling them the answer, the way they should be doing it. You get them to come up with the idea themselves. So it's challenging because you're not always the most popular person because you're constantly questioning the way we currently do things. And it's not to say that we're doing things wrong, it's just we need to look at doing things differently.
In the case of when we're working on the offices and the processes there, a lot of those processes didn't exist before. So we were basically creating something that didn't exist, and everybody felt very favorable coming out of that event that, hey, I didn't have that, or no, I didn't understand how that group was handling that. So it was basically exposing, lack of processes and putting them in place for people to do their jobs and who they needed to contact when they had questions. On the manufacturing floor, the processes are already understood by the teams, though they may not be documented or even in a visual diagram or anything. What we're looking there is to focus on them to do it faster and to minimize errors. It's a little bit different from the way they approach it versus what you would in an office.
Not every event is going to be a home run. You're going to have some very successful events that are really obvious on the shop floor, but then you're going to have some events that aren't so successful and maybe potentially could be almost complete failures. But the point is you have to keep changing. You have to keep trying different things. If you don't keep trying, you're always going to do things the way we've always done. So the key is there, when you've done an event, if it does fail, the point is not to take a step back and go back to the way we did things. The point is to pull the team back together and try to address the problem in another way.
I think some of the things that I'm most concerned about, but I'm also looking forward to is, I've always been more on the manufacturing side. So it's always been equipment. SMED events is kind of where my comfort zone is. And as going through the lean training, one of the things I'm going to be focusing on is value stream mapping, and maybe some of the processes within the company that I've never dealt with before. So I'm a little bit concerned about that because it's totally foreign to me, but I'm also looking forward to it because it's totally foreign to me.
One of the challenges coming out of a Kaizen event is sustaining the results that were achieved during the Kaizen event. And I think that's where that poses the biggest challenge to us. How do we ensure that if we say a changeover is going to be 37 minutes, that every operator on the line is using the standard work document and doing the changeover in the order and the steps that the team during the Kaizen came up with. So we've had some difficulty sustaining the improvements that we achieved during the events, but I think as our culture moves forward and people really start to understand and believe in the lean philosophies, that will help sustain some of the event changes that we make.